Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. My name's Nastasia, and today I'm talking about something super personal to me. Obviously, it's like my entire past 2 years of my life, and it's something that I didn't think I was ever really going to talk about too much because honestly, I was kind of embarrassed. I cared way too much about what people thought about me, and I was also working through my own bitterness through all of it, so it's probably good that I wasn't really talking about it much. But today I'm talking about the fact that we have moved. This will be our 5th time moving in about 2 years. So, spoiler alert, we're moving again, and I figured this is perfect timing to talk about this since we are in the middle of transitioning yet again. I'm not necessarily going to get into the nitty-gritty of why each move took place. I'm not going to get into necessarily details of all that because it's not like a secret. It's just, I don't really find it to be important. What's important to me is to share with you what I believe the Lord has been teaching me and where my struggles have been, so that if you are going through big change in your life, or you feel like your life has not been on the trajectory that you had anticipated and envisioned for yourself, and you feel like God's taking you on a little bit of a roller coaster of sorts, or maybe you're in a very, very similar situation where you have had to move in with family, or you feel like you're about to have to move in with family, and you're just handling a lot of emotions. I hope this video can bless you and maybe give you some insight into what the Lord has been working on in me. Before we get into it, I wanted to thank Lovevery for collaborating with this video today. Lovevery sends Eros toys every few months, and it has been our favorite thing. I'm literally not even exaggerating here. I love Lovevery so much. So incredibly kind. I've been in contact with the people at Lovevery. They're so sweet. The toys are unmatched in quality compared to other toys that we have received, bought, such. They are just the best thing. We have, like I said, moved several times, and no matter what, something that always gives me so much peace of mind is making Eros' space so special. He's a little over 1 now, barely over 1, and so he's starting to understand change a little bit more, and having his space with his toys and his things has been so vital, and it's given me, my mama heart, a little bit more peace, knowing that like no matter what, he is so happy, and those toys are just his favorite thing. And I'm just, like I said, always impressed with the quality and how they always try to focus on developmentally appropriate toys for each age. So that's what's cool, is you can pick a kit based on their age range, and it's going to help them with different things that they might be learning in that stage and things that they're already going to be interested in. But it's great too because they're very open-ended toys, so it's not like once they get past 6 months that they'll never play with those toys again. Like, that's not the case at all. He still plays with some toys from the 0 to 3 month like box, so it's just so fun. I highly recommend Lovevery. I will have their link down below. They've been so good to me and my family, and I know that they will be good and serve your family well too. So check them out down below if you haven't already. So before we get into it, if you end up liking this, give it a like, subscribe if you're new here. I am trying to be more consistent with videos. I feel like I'm a broken record saying that, but it is a little hard when you're constantly moving. And I do have a Patreon where I do post consistently every single month. And that's more like vlog style content. So it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff in my life. I try to keep some stuff of our like day-to-day private here on YouTube, but that's kind of for my patrons over on Patreon. So there's 3 different levels to choose from over there that you can pay into if you'd like to see more behind the scenes content from me over there, and I will have that link down below as well. So let's get into the video. I know this was an introduction. Okay, so like I said, we are about to move again, and it'll be our 5th time in about 2 years. And only one of those occasions was in our own place. And it was the first occasion, and all the rest have been living with other people. When I say we, I mean my husband, my son, and myself. And I know that's a very unorthodox thing to begin with, ever living with family after you're married with a child. I know it seems unorthodox. More people than you'd think have to do this. especially now. Oh my goodness, inflation is crazy. We live in, well, not in, but around the area of Nashville. And it's insane. Housing prices. Like, I've had some friends in different parts of the country where they'll be like, yeah, housing rates are so crazy right now. And I'm like, oh, I know. It's about this much for a 1-bedroom. And they're like, wait, what? Like, it's just insanity how expensive housing is everywhere, but specifically where we're located, very, very difficult. And like I said, I'm not really going to get into much details, but I'm going to give some details that I think is pertinent to the story. So when we got married, we moved into an apartment. My husband and I were both working. So he had a job, like a 9-to-5 job. I had a 9-to-5 job. And then it was around the time of 2020 and all the things that happened in 2020. And I'm not going to name all those things because I don't want to get flagged, but certain things happened in 2020 and there were certain requirements that were going to be at his job that we were not comfortable doing. And we were under the impression that it was going to be mandatory for him to do something in order to keep his job. You can probably fill in the blanks. We were not comfortable with that. So he did, but didn't have the choice of having to leave his job. So he left his job and we both made that decision. We both prayed about it and we were both like, yes, this is the conviction we have. And I absolutely do not regret that. I really don't. It wasn't a healthy work environment anyway for him. So I think that was the move. But from then on, it was trying to fill in the gaps of figuring out another job. And then within that time, because he picked up different like odd jobs and stuff, but during that time I found out I was pregnant. So, which was a surprise, a happy surprise, but it was a surprise. And I knew we had already talked about when I would have a baby that I would come home full time. So we were trying to figure all this out. And Kai had taken a job opportunity that looked really, really great, had a lot of potential, and it did. And we prayed and we felt led to walk through that door, even though it was mainly commission-based. It was only commission-based, not mainly, solely commission-based. And we walked through that door, but it wasn't panning out. But at the time, he couldn't find another job to replace it. So we made the decision to move in with family, to hopefully wait for it to pick up, to save a bunch of money, then be able to buy a house. So that was our plan. And we ended up moving. And some things happened where we had to move again with different family. And then we were there for a little while. We had Eros there. I had a home birth. And we were there for, oh my goodness, until recently, like this May. So about a year. And then we got an opportunity to move in with some friends. So we did that and it's been incredible, but because of certain circumstances, again, it's not like secret or scary or anything. It's just not pertinent to the conversation really. We are having to move again with family again. And anyway, it has been a journey, and I know that the top thoughts of most people would be, well, why can't you move it on your own yet? Well, there's a few things. Not that it matters, but I figure I'll give you context. Like I said, the housing rate's insane. We also don't love the idea of just throwing all our money away basically to rent that will just every year get higher and higher and higher, and not be able to build any kind of cushion or any kind of savings for a down payment of a home. We don't want to just scrape by for the rest of our lives. And that's not me saying that if people do that, that's bad. I'm just saying like these are some goals we have, and we do have family nearby and stuff. So, and our family has agreed with us on this, that they think it's a wise decision for us to instead take a season to just choose to save as much as possible. And Kai does right now have a 9-to-5 job while he's working on his real estate license stuff at the same time. So but he's out of that previous commission job and in a 9-to-5, so we can save a lot more now. I figured all of that might be relevant to the situation so that I can tell you what the Lord has been teaching me. So when I first found out that we were going to have to move in with family back in 2022, early 2022, I was mad. I was so mad. I was like kicking and screaming, but I also had a weird piece about it. I felt like a failure. I felt like, what are people going to think about us? We can't even, like, this isn't how it's supposed to go. We're supposed to get a house now because we're going to have a baby. We're supposed to get a house. We're not supposed to go backwards and go from apartment living to literally living with other people again. Like, we're married now. Like, we had less than 1 year with each other, married, living just the two of us together before we had to move in with other people. Like, it was less than a year. And I just felt very embarrassed. I felt very bitter. I felt resentful that even though my husband and I had made this decision together, he absolutely included me in every single decision, was like, what do you want to do? I said, I think this is the move, but still the temptation to resent him of, he should do more, he should this, he should break his back for us to live in a place, all this stuff kept creeping in, even though he was already breaking his back to try to make everything work out together. I felt out of control. I felt like God didn't see me. And those feelings kind of continued for the past year and a half. And I just kept making the end goal of when we get out, when we get out, when we get out. When we get out on our own, when we get out on our own, then this, then this, then this. This was the goal. This is the end goal. This is the pinnacle of what we're going towards. And instead of it being where God has me now, how can I honor and glorify him? How can I fulfill my role as a wife and a mother and a follower of Christ and a friend and a YouTuber? Honestly, for you guys, that's part of my role. How can I fulfill that here now with what God has given me? Instead of seeing it as, okay, this is a very peculiar adventure that God has us on, what can I do with it? I saw it as kind of the in-between chapter of a book that you're just trying to get through to get to the exciting part again. Instead of it being like, no, this is pertinent to your life. This is a purpose. And like I said, I think a lot of it also had to do with, what will people think about us? What are people saying about us? What are people talking about us and thinking, and oh, what they must think about us, and they must misunderstand us and our motives. They must think we're lazy. They must think that blah, 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 blah. I was always thinking about that. I was thinking about what other people think of us, probably more than anybody was even thinking about us. And I have no insight thinking that anybody's actually said any of these things. Maybe they are, maybe everybody is, but I have zero proof. And I just took it and ran and made it out like I had to make excuses or be defensive of the season God had us in. And I also understand that, like, we did make choices that, looking back, I don't know if we would have made the same ones or not. I think either way, Kai had to quit that job that he was in, but I don't know if we would have gone after the commission job. But also I try not to spend time on the what ifs, because it doesn't matter, because everything is in God's providence. And so it wouldn't have been different, because this is just what it was going to be. So just, there's no point spending time in the what ifs. It will exhaust you and has no purpose, and it wastes your time and your energy, and usually makes you feel a lot more pain and a lot less grateful. So it's just not important, truly. But I was so worried about what people were going to think of me, that it caused me to be a worse wife, a worse mom, a worse follower of Christ, and just a really sad person, honestly. And I definitely think there's room for feelings and emotions. I don't feel like I was in the wrong for feeling sadness about change. I have felt that in several of the moves, because almost all of them was because something happened where we were like, okay, we have to make a change. So I don't think I feel bad for processing my emotion. I don't feel bad for processing my emotions. What I feel bad about is when I've spiraled. And some things I wanted to note that I'm hoping will be a blessing to you. One of the most pinnacle turning points for me was when I was pregnant with Eros, and I was so gut-wrenchingly sad that I couldn't have the home birth of my dreams. I'm literally gonna tear up. Because I was gonna just have this beautiful home birth. I was picturing this whole thing. I was gonna make it beautiful in our own space. And now it was like, okay, we have to live with family, and now we're moving to different family and all this stuff. And I just have to haphazardly put this together and just have the birthing tub wherever we can. And it's not our space. And even though everybody was being very generous to try to like let it be our space as much as possible, it still wasn't ours. And I was just so hung up on the fact that I wasn't even gonna have my own home birth in my own home. It really tore me apart. And then I remember clear as day the Lord prompting me, and I can't take credit for this. It's rare that I say God told me. I really try not to say that because I don't want to put words in God's mouth that aren't there. I feel, though, to the depths of my soul that this was the Lord, because it was way too good to be me, if I'm being honest. I was in just a really sad place, and I felt the Lord prompting me and saying, where did Mary give birth to Jesus? And it just stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, if the mother of Jesus can give birth somewhere that isn't her home, that she feels so displaced from her home. We don't know her plans. We don't know what she had in store and in place of what she envisioned for this birth. We don't know any of that. But it got turned around, and now the story of forever is that, you know, Jesus was born among the farm animals, and it was either like a stable, cave, whatever. It was not really a home. There wasn't even room in the inn for them. Does that mean God loved Mary less? Does that mean God loved Jesus less? Of course not. And I'm only tearing up because this is so powerful to me even now, as it was then. It really changed everything for me that I'm not being punished. This isn't God punishing me for something or being mad at me for something or loving me less than someone else, a different mother or whatever, because he didn't love Mary any less. He wasn't punishing her. It's just part of the plan. It's just part of it. And, okay, hold on. I'm just going to gather myself a second. I don't want to be teary this whole video. Okay, so once I kind of had gotten that, you know, image in my head of everything, it changed definitely how I saw my home birth. And we did have a home birth with Eros at family's house that we were staying at, and it ended up being so incredible. Everything was smooth sailing. If I'm being honest, no amount of aesthetics could have taken away the pain that I felt. So it didn't really matter at the end of the day if it was my space or not, if I'm being honest. All I felt was pain, and I wanted it to be over with. So funny enough, that didn't really matter. But it ended up being so great. God blessed us, and there was no issue whatsoever with anything at all. It was a picture perfect, by the book home birth. And I was so blessed with that. And then just to skip forward a little bit, I feel like the biggest thing that God has been kind of pulling me towards is to just surrender, to stop trying to control everything, and to just live. Because over and over, I just kept saying, you know, I will do this once we are stable. Like once we are in a place that we're there for a long time, then I'll do this, then I'll do this, then I'll do this. Well, then that pushes it off almost 2 years to be consistent in pretty much anything. And it just keeps building all this bitterness inside of me, thinking I can't do any of the things I want to do because of this and this and this, and I can't do any of this, where I really could the whole time. It's just not how I pictured it. But that doesn't mean it's not how God pictured it. And something that I feel like I've been leaning into a little bit more lately is I realized what's been upsetting me is getting my hopes up and then being let down. Hoping that something's going to be different, a season's going to be different, or we're going to get out of this season and into a new one, or hoping that things are going to change and this is all going to be the best, whatever. And so many people would tell me, you know, don't stop hoping just because of this. Don't let this ruin your hope. Don't blah. But I was like, but things aren't matching up and I can't keep doing this. Like, I can't keep getting my hopes up. And what I realized is that I'm hoping in the wrong thing entirely. It's not that I shouldn't get my hopes up, it's that I shouldn't put my hopes in that at all. I shouldn't be getting my hopes up, down, anything. I shouldn't even put hope there. I need to focus my hope only at Jesus. That's it. That's it. And as first grade Sunday school, as that sounds, it truly is the changing thing for me, because I just kept feeling like, oh, but what if this time isn't different? What if this is worse? What if this? What if that? What if? And like I said before, what ifs don't benefit anybody. And also placing my hope in something that's always going to let me down, even if it's the most perfect scenario. We live in a fallen world with fallen people. And so no matter what, it's not going to be my greatest hopes, because my greatest hopes were never meant to lie with anything on this planet. They were only ever meant to lie in the hands of the Lord, ever. And if I am trying to put my security in a home, in a place, in people, in my things, in being a homemaker, which none of those are bad things, and being a homemaker is an amazing thing and is something I'm called to be, but I just kept being very, woe is me, I'm a homemaker without a home. Woe is me, I am a mom without being able to make, a home in a learning area for my son and all this stuff, because we don't have our own place. And woe is me, my husband can't go after his dreams yet and all this stuff. Woe is me, I can't have another child yet because we don't have our own place. Like, woe is me. Instead of just focusing on what God's given me now, I've been so stuck in bitterness, and it's been really lonely and painful, and I just am kind of sick of it. And the reason I was even inspired to kind of make this video today was the sermon at my church today was really, really good. And he was talking about how, it's kind of a long story. I'm not going to repeat the whole sermon, but he was talking about how in original Jewish culture, when a rabbi told a student, come and follow me, it was very rare. That was the goal. That's what every parent wanted for their kid, and it was rare that a student would even be chosen. It was slim pickings there. And when they would say that, and the student would just be ecstatic and go with the rabbi, basically they would spend the next 15 years of their life copying everything the rabbi did. And sometimes it would be a grueling process. It would be anything that he would do, they would follow, because they wanted to imitate him. They wanted to be like him. So when Jesus would call the disciples and say, come and follow me, and they left everything and went with him, it's because they knew who he was, and they knew what he was doing, and they knew what an honor it was. And they followed him, and they imitated or tried to imitate everything he did. And he said, we now have that calling because we have the Holy Spirit in us. If you are a believer of Jesus Christ, we have that calling as a disciple that Jesus is saying, come and follow me. And that doesn't just mean, oh, great, my salvation is secured, check, done, can go do whatever I want now. It's, no, you are called to imitate Christ day in, day out. It is your life. He's not part of your life. He is it. He's the life. And when he said, if you're a disciple, you have to live life the way Christ lived his life. And I thought about the fact that he was kind of a nomad. I might be getting the definition of nomad wrong. So if it means something horrible, then that's not what I mean. What I mean is just the fact that during his entire, journey of spreading the gospel before he was crucified, he went from home to home. He went from city to city. He didn't have his own mansion on earth that he was just chilling in. I think scripture tells us that he was born into poverty of sorts. He was a carpenter. He was not this grand in the secular world's eyes figure. He was grand obviously, biblically. But yeah, and I just thought about that. I'm like, I'm chasing really hard after something that Jesus didn't chase. And that was really convicting. I'm hoping for something that, like, I'm putting all my hopes into something that Jesus didn't put his hopes in. I'm pausing my entire life and everything that I feel called to do for something that Jesus did not pause his life for. Like, all those things. And again, we're still pursuing saving up for a home. That is still something we want to do. We're not over here just being like, great, we'll just not make any money and follow Jesus. Like, you are still called to be responsible. I still want to have more children in the future. It's more of a heart posture of surrender now that's different. And I just realized how many things I had been letting work against me. Nobody was putting them on me. Nobody was telling me that they were judging us. Nobody was really even questioning our decisions. Nobody was trying to make me feel bad about anything. My husband works his tail off. My son is happy, so happy. It's just me. It's just me that I am getting in my own head about and worry and fear. So my whole point of all this is to say, if you are in a season, maybe it's very similar to this, like physically speaking, where it actually has to do with moving a lot. It has to do with moving in with family or friends. It has to do with financial insecurity. It has to do with these different things. Or whether it's a completely different set of, specifics, but the theme is the same. Lots of change over and over and over again, and you feel like you can't kind of wrap your head around it, and are just kind of living in this woe is me place. I'm not saying don't feel your emotions. I think that's unhealthy. Process your emotions. But once you're kind of ready and you're past that, remind yourself that any form of worry is not going to help you. It's not going to add a single hour to your life. And maybe it will be worse. Maybe it will be worse than before. Maybe it will be a valley season. Maybe it will be really, really, really hard. But I encourage you to just take it day by day and trust that God will sustain you. And when you think you can't do it anymore, know that it's not you doing it. If you're a believer, it's the Holy Spirit in you that strengthens you in your weakness. His strength is made perfect in our weakness. So it's not about what you can or can't do, which is glorious. And it's not about what you can and cannot handle. So just go into it knowing that maybe your hopes will be let down, but maybe you shouldn't be putting your hopes into that anyway. Put your hopes somewhere that they can't be let down, because in Jesus they can't be. I would also encourage you, I'm preaching to myself here, so keep this in mind. If you spend as much of your time as possible studying the Word, trying to get to know God more, understanding theology and apologetics and what the Bible means, truly trying to know God as much as possible, seeking Him day in and day out, the time of whatever season you're going through is going to pass by. And you are going to be able to go through it so much easier and so much happier. You are the only one getting in your own way of happiness if you're keeping yourself from throwing yourself fully into God and His Word. You are the only one making yourself more bitter and resentful and mad and angry and sad and victim mindset if you know that you are not throwing yourself into the Word of God. And that's not me trying to shame you at all. It's me telling me, like, if I think that ignoring the Bible is going to make me somehow feel better, it's not. That's a lie. It's going to do the opposite thing. If I think that giving into sin is going to make it better, it's going to do the opposite. All these different things. And so I want you to know that there are certain things that we have to just surrender to when it comes to the Lord and His providence for our life, things we can't change. And we just have to say, okay, God, okay, this is the season you have me in. And I can't put a time frame on it. And I probably don't even get to know the time frame. And I'm just gonna have to trust you. And then there are certain things we can control, like our actions in that time frame and in that providence God has for us. Are you going to choose to make yourself distant from the Lord and make yourself distant from his word and prayer and worship and praise and being part of your local church? Are you going to choose to do that? Are you going to choose to run towards sin instead of away from it? Are you going to choose to resist the devil, or are you going to choose to kind of just flirt with that line a little bit? Like, the thing is that those things aren't going to make you happy anyway. It's not like God is trying to keep you from happiness. He's actually trying to give you the only true source of happiness, which is through him. So that's something I'm trying to lean into, because I feel like I really thought we were about to get out of a season, and it turns out we're not. And that feels really disappointing. But God has never allowed anything for me that's meant to hurt me ever. Like, the plans he has for me are to prosper me, not to harm me. So every time that I look back and I thought, man, it's just the end of the world and something really heartbreaking happened in my life or something, it was actually, I look back now and I'm like, thank you, God. Because I don't want to know what would have happened if I went down that road. I would have ended up with the wrong person, the wrong place, doing the wrong thing, like all these different scenarios. And somehow this is for our good too. Even though it doesn't feel like it, even though it feels like the world's upside down in a lot of ways, even though it's not as picture perfect as I always thought, as my Pinterest board for years was gonna be. Yeah, the Bible is full of a lot of people and stories that God basically took their plans, said, it's not that you have bad plans, but I have better ones, and you need to trust me. And that's kind of the scenario here. All that being said, I am just choosing to be in a place of surrender and just coming to you as I am, because that's how God calls me to do it, is to come to him as I am. So I don't really care what people think about me or my family or our choices. I don't really care what people assume about us or misunderstand about us. I have a job to do. My job is to be on here, talk about Jesus. And it's kind of what I plan to do. I don't really want to get in my head anymore with lies. I just want to be a good wife, a good mom, a good child of God, a good influence on you guys, and a good friend to you guys. Because I consider this, in a weird way, a friendship. I don't consider this as me having more authority than you in any way or anything like that. I just figure, what is the point of going through all of this if I'm not going to share it and it's not going to help anybody? So anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's not the most exciting clickbait video. I know it's not, one that YouTube is going to push, but if it can help one person, if there's anybody going through anything similar and God can use this to reach them, then man, the past 2 years of my life, that's so worth it. It really is. So I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you found it to be a blessing to you, or if you know somebody that maybe you think this can bless, then I pray that it would, coming from a place of somebody who does not have it all together, and I have been through this past 2 years kicking and screaming, and I'm just now getting to this point, and I hope that can speak to somebody. So I love you guys a lot. Don't forget to check out my Patreon down below, and also Lovevery, and thank you for being here. I will be here as long as God calls me to be, no matter what the numbers, subscribers, likes, or anything else say. I don't really care. So I really appreciate your support, and I love you so much. Bye, guys.